I want everyone to know that, like, we all have our own kind of shit show going on, and it all
Yeah.
varies, but it's all very normal. Hey, it's Jess, and this is the Heartcore Home, the podcast for moms who are healing, unlearning, and trying not to lose their minds while raising good humans. Today, we're talking about something every parent struggles with at some point: sleep. Not just your kids' sleep, but yours too. The exhaustion, frustration, the middle of the night battles that just make you want to pull your hair out. I've got a sleep consultant here with me who's not about rigid rules or shamey advice, but real respectful support that actually helps families get more rest and less stress. And it's all unique to your family. So let's get into it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Okay, so Majo winner. I live in Argentina. I'm a mom of two, a parent coach, and a child sleep consultant.
What does that look like? Like, what does it look like to be a sleep consultant for children?
I work with parents, not children, actually. But a lot of people usually, when I say I'm a child sleep consultant, they're like, that's interesting. What do
Right.
you do? Especially older people, like my mom. She was amazed when I told her I was doing this. So what I do is I help parents that are struggling with their kids, their baby sleep generally. They come around 4 months, sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later. Parents that have trouble being with their kids when they go to bed, or if their kids are taking too long, or their kids are not napping, or they're not sleeping in their cribs, or they need assistance when they go to bed. I
Right.
work with those parents.
Right. I actually have a child in a sleep regression right now. It's a good time.
Mhm. Those
No,
are
that's
those
right.
are fun. Said no one ever.
And she's like, she does this weird thing. She has to put her hands up our shirts, like either down my like cleavage because she's still nursing, or when she has like her dad, she'll put her hands up his shirt. Or like even now, if I roll away, like she sleeps in bed with me. If I roll away from her and I'm even just in a bra, she'll put her hands up the back of my bra. I'm like, there's nothing for you to even put your hands through, really. But she has to be like so attached right now.
Check in.
It's so bizarre.
So she's a little bit over like 20 months.
Yeah, yeah, she's very attached, and the other day, my oldest came into bed, she had, like, a bad dream, and so I was like, "That's fine." So she got into bed, and I woke up for work, and they both slept in, and they cuddled so hard, it was, like, the cutest thing, but I was like, "Okay, maybe I should make you get into bed more often so she stays asleep." Man.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's
Add
awesome.
more people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, how'd you get into this field? Like, what inspired you to kind of pursue that?
My oldest, when I had Rafa, my oldest, he's 6 now. He was sleeping like a baby, basically, and I thought there was a problem with that. So I started looking for information when he was a newborn. He was like 3 weeks old. I remember the first time I reached out to someone, and I was so interested by this world that I started looking, and learning. And then when he was around 5 months, I had to start thinking about going back to the office. And I was not happy with it. And I was like, I don't think this job, my previous life job, I always say I was in PR, this is worth, this job is worth being away from him. And I was really into sleep also, but I also didn't want to go back to an office and be away from him for 8 hours. And I decided to quit and, educate myself. I went to FSI, the Family Sleep Institute, and I got a certification. And then I started doing my own practice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I
Mhm.
that's kind of where I'm at with like, the parent coaching. I'm like, I just want to be with my kids and I can work from home now with like my 9 to 5, but it's not the same. And it's like, yeah, and I mean being into sleep. I've always been into sleep. I love to sleep. That's all of my children have stayed in bed with me as long as they have and why we have a community bedroom right now because they won't leave me and I'm like, I don't even care. We all sleep better. It's fine. We're all just gonna just go with the flow because I'm a rager if I don't get good sleep, and I don't wanna be that way with my kids.
Whatever works. That's the other thing. Most families have arrangements that they don't say out loud.
Right.
They do
Yeah.
it to me though. If they come into my practice, I'm like, have a consult with me. They do, but usually they're not like telling their friends what they're doing to
Right.
get sleep.
I've noticed that too. I've been trying to be more open about this is what I do because I also feel like, well, in America, it's very frowned upon to like, have your kid in your bedroom and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's plenty of other cultures that handle things like that, and every family's different too. I've seen things in the past where the parents will sleep in separate beds for different reasons, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, there's something so wrong with that." And I'm like, But if it's working for their family and that's what they have to do in this season of life, then what's wrong with it? And so I've been kind of sharing more of that because I used to, I used to go to the doctors and they'd be like, "Oh, do they sleep in a crib?" I'm like, "Absolutely, yes, they do." Like, crib, you mean my arms in the middle of my bed? Then yes.
And
Like,
the crib, yes.
but we're like afraid to admit that, I think, especially because of like the fear of the health field and what could happen with that, depending on the person you're talking to, they could take that as negligent parenting, or take it the wrong way. And so there's a lot of, I think, I don't know, yeah, fear and shame around just being honest about your situation. No one wants to say it out loud because what will people
Mhm.
think?
Exactly. Here is a little bit of both. You have a lot of people that at least come to me because they're co-sleeping and they don't want to. So I always ask the families that are co-sleeping, did you choose to do this or did you fall into it? Because most people ended up co-sleeping because there's nothing else to do. That's the only way they can get the kids to sleep. Usually there's a solution, let's say, or something we can do if they don't want to co-sleep. I always ask the same. Do you choose this, or did you just like happen to, wake up one day and be like, "Oh, I've been sleeping with my baby for like 3 months and I don't
Or you're
like it."
forced into this because you don't know what else to do.
Exactly. So I think it's important to look at both ways. Always like, what do you want to do, but also what works for you. And sometimes all they need is a couple tools. Let's say either to make co-sleeping safe, because that's also really important.
Right.
Safe sleeping, co-sleeping, or just to transition the baby into a crib if that's what they want.
I always said if I wasn't
Mhm.
such a light sleeper, I wouldn't have, but I know my sleep habits and I wake up if anyone even like I can hear my child getting ready to throw up before she throws up. I'll wake up and sit them up when I know that they're about to. I sleep so light. I knew it worked for me and I wouldn't let my husband sleep next to them and he'd be like, "What the heck? I'm fine." And I'm like, "I don't trust that. I don't know." But I know me. But as they got older, I was like, "You have got to get out of my bed." My oldest is she's
Mhm.
such an attachment kid that she does not wanna be away from me, and now we moved it's been 2 years now, but they still don't like going upstairs by themselves in this new house, and so our compromise was, "Fine, you can sleep in my room, there's enough room for 2 beds, but you're sleeping in your own bed then. I'm fine with us if we all sleep in the same room, fine." And, like, her and my middle, they moved into a bed together because I had bunk beds and they would, like, not do it, and then they wanted to sleep together anyway, so I was like, "I'll get a full-size bed, you can do what you want, take all the stuffies you want, I don't care, but get out of my bed." Aside from when there's like, bad dreams and stuff, they sleep in their own bed, but then the issue with that is, like, my husband won't come to bed. He'll say, "Yeah, I'm gonna rub their back to sleep," and then next thing I know, it's 5 in the morning and he's asleep in the full-size bed with them, and it's just me and the baby in the king size. And I'm like, "Okay, you have to come back to
More
bed."
space for you.
Right. He's the one that's worse about it though, because 'cause I'm like, "They gotta go." He's like, "But I love cuddling them." I'm like, "I know, but we gotta get him out of the bed." He's like, "But just a little longer." Bro, come on now. It took a lot longer. I was like, "Oh, yeah," when Johnny was like 3, I was like, "We'll start transitioning." And then he's like, "What if we do this many nights?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then when we moved, everyone ended up back in our bed because it was unfamiliar, and then I had to start the process
Exactly.
over
It's a new
again.
house.
Yeah, so we're finally, like, little by little, we're baby stepping them away from me because, like, yeah, my
The
old
sleeping arrangement. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like my oldest kinda sets that precedent, and so because she's so attached, the rest of them are like, "Well, this is what we're gonna do then, right?" And now my youngest being the baby, and she's so demanding, she's like, "This is what we're gonna do, and you're just gonna deal with it."
There's also a separation anxiety phase around 18, 20 months that
Definitely.
nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Everybody is like so into the 8-month old regression. But I think 18, 20, it's
Yeah.
the worst,
Yeah.
probably,
I
because
took
they can move.
Yeah, I took the girls to dance and my husband sent me a Marco Polo and she was like, "I want mommy." And I've never had any of my kids do that ever. Wake up and just, "I want mommy." And I have to go to Florida for 4 days. And I'm like, it'll be so much fun to have like
Alone.
yes, yes, to have mom time. But I'm like, she's still nursing. And the fact that she's acting like that, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be the hardest thing. I've never been away from my family for that long. And I'm like, I'll get to sleep, but I don't think Sean's gonna get
Yeah.
that much. But it is
Yeah. It's going to
interesting.
be harder for him, probably.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting because I don't think that there's not a lot of conversation around the sleep rituals that happen and how that actually really does affect your parenting and you being a parent coach also, how it affects how you're showing up too when either they're not sleeping well or you're not sleeping well or one because of the other, or even if they are sleeping well and then you're not sleeping well. Like there's so many factors that come with that.
Well, being sleep deprived is not fun for anyone. Not for us, not for them. I think that's what I have a job,
Right. Yeah.
basically, because we're also expected to be, moms, like we don't have jobs, and have jobs like we're not moms.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't sleep all night because you're breastfeeding a sick baby, let's say, and then you have to wake up at 6 a.m., put your makeup on, get dressed, leave at 8 a.m., drop the other kids at school, and then be gone for the day and come back like you slept all night. And it's really hard to do that. So the same thing happens with kids, not babies. It's different, like most kids, when they wake up, 5 times a night, they're still sleeping. And if they are usually sleeping through the night, and I'm using air quotes when I said through the night, because we all wake up every 2 hours. When they're sleeping through the night, they get used to certain, feeling rested the day after. And then, one night they come up and they wake up like 4 times. They're going to be fine the next day. It's
Right.
not crazy. Not doing it all the time. They're going to be okay. They're going to survive. But when it's an ongoing thing, that's when it starts being, detrimental to the whole family, because you start being like, oh my God, I just want to sleep. And my kid doesn't let me sleep. And then I start, I get cranky and I will yell at my husband because he's not waking up. And it's always me because I'm breastfeeding. But the baby doesn't need breastfeeding because I fed him like 35 minutes ago. So it didn't. And we all start going around having the worst mood ever. And that's probably a good sign that you need help.
Yeah.
And usually, lucky us, there's a lot of information out there now. And it all starts with a calm, wonderful bed routine, bedtime routine, a loving bedtime routine. That was actually my mission when I started. I wanted people to have a wonderful, peaceful, loving bedtime routine that they could actually enjoy. It could be both parents, one parent, mom, dad, whoever it is, but no screaming, no crying, no anxiety around when is the baby going to fall asleep. Also, because most of us, I always tell the parents I work with, is your job as a mom or as a dad is to take the baby to sleep to a safe place, a safe space at the right time. It's their job to fall asleep. And you cannot control when they fall asleep or how they fall asleep or how long they're going to sleep for. And once you get all, that weight off your shoulders, you start feeling a little bit lighter. And that is doable. It's an easy job if you think about it. You can make sure they have a safe crib, they have a safe crib or a safe, I don't know, mattress or bed if they're, sharing a bed with you. But once you stop trying to control what they're doing, things start flowing. Even though you still need to have a little bit of control around certain things, but we don't want to get crazy about that.
Isn't that like just the way it is with everything? The more pressure we add and the more we
Mhm.
try to control, the more it actually spins out of control. We had I was on a call, I was interviewing someone, and now it's in one of my podcasts. Now I can't remember exactly which person I was talking to, but we had said like it's actually a sense of control to stop trying to control because you get to control whether you choose to try to control it. And she was like,
Yeah,
oh,
actually, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's a very interesting, but if you shift that perspective, right? Like
Yeah, I had that conversation with my therapist where she was like, "Well, I think you're trying to, but you're still doing it." It's like, yeah, but I'm better at it. It's
right.
like,
I mean, yeah, like you can have that better sense of control. I'm gonna control things by not trying to control them.
that's
So
a good first step.
yeah, exactly, exactly. What would you say is like one of the most common struggles within sleep that you see with the parents you work with?
I would say the biggest is that we usually compare ourselves to other parents, even though we have no idea what's going on behind closed doors.
Mm.
That usually I would say that because I also experienced that when I was like, my baby is not sleeping, quote correctly or as good as someone else's kid, or we do this in like parenting in general. I would say, but with sleep, we tend to think that other people have it easier, and we don't know what they did to have it easy, or we don't know if they actually have it easy.
Right.
So we try to compare too much.
Like that saying, the grass is greener where it's fake. I think we do that in
Mhm.
life in general, and especially as women. And then it just kind of like amplifies in motherhood because we're always looking for like, what are they doing? how are they doing that perfectly? And like you said, we don't know what's going on with other people. We know what they
Well,
show us and what they tell us, but we don't really know unless we're there.
I was gonna say we have a new layer of difficulty with this, which is social media, because we tend to see this, there's so many sleep consultant accounts or sleep coach accounts where you see the baby and they go through a day. And I remember when Vicente was, my youngest was a baby, he's almost 4 now. I would do a day in the life of, and I would show, when he was 6 months, how I put him down, when, at what time he would wake up, how long the nap was, if he had lunch or this and that. And those were the days where I had the most engagement because people realized that my baby was an actual baby that did baby stuff, and he was not perfect just because he was my son. The fact that I am a sleep consultant doesn't mean that my babies sleep air quotes perfect at all times because they're babies. That's the other thing. I'm trying to, break down this narrative that babies can sleep through the night, are going to have super long naps, they're going to fall asleep being like, oh, life is wonderful and drift off to bed, like a Hollywood movie. I was trying to break that. And so people love when they see that I actually was struggling, putting the baby down and he was fussing, or, you need to pick him up and then try again, or like, well, the nap was like 35 minutes, so he ended up like sleeping on me because I wanted a longer nap because at night I had something going on, or you know would change things at all times. But seeing real life in social media is not normal nowadays. You know what I mean? We only see what people want us to see, so we tend to see the better parts of their lives, aka their kids, their houses. Those
Right.
are worse because my house is not as tidy as I would like to
Yeah. Yeah.
all the time. Yeah. So
It's
anyway,
interesting to say that.
but
Even my 6, well, she'll be 6 this year, but so my 5-year-old at this time, like, she if she gets woke up, ooh, like, there have been times, like, traveling with her from probably 4 through, like, now, if she gets woke up in the car, it would turn into, like, the biggest shit show. Like, she would wake
mhm,
up screaming, cranky, kicking the seats, wake up the baby, then the baby would flip out, and we'd be, an hour and a half from home, and I'm like, "Oh my god." Like, so it's like
mhm,
whenever she falls asleep, I'm like, "Nobody wake her. Be very careful because if she wakes up, she's grouchy." Ooh, it's
mm,
intense, and it's also funny because, like, talking about how we don't know what's going on is like, I can say I sleep with my baby in my bed, and still every night for, like, the last I don't even know how many weeks now, she doesn't wanna go to sleep, and so she will go to bed, and for whatever reason, we're all going to bed later, but I homeschool, so my kids sleep in later. But she lays in bed and she tosses and turns and she thinks it's playtime and she kicks the wall. So then everybody can hear her like boom, boom, boom. And then next thing you know, I hear everybody else snoring and I'm wide awake with this baby. It's going to take me another hour to fall asleep with this one. And it's
mhm,
like having the touch and even having, like these seemingly like idealistic, for us, like I guess situations and all of the right elements, she still doesn't just lay down, cuddle me and go to sleep. That's not,
mhm.
it's not realistic.
Yeah, another thing, hearing you saying this is reminding me that another thing I see a lot in my practice is that your goal is not my goal. Every family has a different goal. And the same thing when people come to me and they're like, I want my 6-month-old to sleep through a night. And I'm never going to sign that and be like, yes, after 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to do that. I do promise parents that we are going to get better.
Right.
They are going to be better at the end of it. Because the whole goal of this for me as a person that is like walking through them through this process is to make sure they get better. It's like getting better. We're not talking about you. It's not about perfection. It's about getting better every time, trying to be your best. So when it comes to this, sometimes I have parents that have babies that wake up 10 times a night that are like, oh my God, Majo, thank you so much. My baby only wakes up 3 times a night. This is awesome. And I'm like, you can get better. And it's like, no, this is like, I'm reaching this. This is wonderful. And then I have a family that comes and is like, my baby woke up one time last week in between like 1 a.m. and like 1:10 and I need help. And I'm like, oh wow, okay. Not that specific, but it's crazy to see that one family's problem it's another family's ideal situation.
All wins that for them, it's like life
Hmm.
to have that extra hour. Yeah, whereas other people,
Exactly.
because they maybe need that full night's sleep, they're like, "This one time is too much." That's me.
Yes. I have a problem. I always say that if you wake me up at a quarter till 7, I usually wake up around 7. That's when my kids wake up. If you wake me up a quarter till 7, you ruin my day. If you still those last 15 minutes, you ruin my day. And I'm like, I cry. I seriously have to go do some like deep breathings and try to get
Yeah.
it all in, all the peace that I can gather from nobody be actually yelling, so I don't yell.
Dude, I've always been the kind of person that once I'm up, I wake up fairly easy. It takes me a minute to get out of bed, but once I do, I can be like wide awake within 15 minutes without coffee. Like I'm just up and ready to go. But my
Mhm.
dad used to get ready and I would have my door locked. I'd be in bed and I'd be like kind of like stirring, a little bit. And he'd come up with like 2 minutes to the time my alarm went off and bang on my door just to like just knock loud to wake me up and make sure. Oh, the rage it sent through my body.
Mhm.
I was like, "I know. I am more than capable of getting up. Stop it."
I feel you.
It's such a simple
Happens to
little
me
thing, but
quite
it's like
often.
yeah, it, like, sets you off. What would you say now talking about this and, like, how we're comparing ourselves to other people so much, what do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are around sleep?
Around sleep, then in order to help your kid sleep, you have to let it cry it out. It is possible to help a kid, a baby, to sleep, to make sleep easier, the whole situation for the whole family without having them cry it out.
I
That's a
love
big
that.
one.
You're right. I think a lot of people think that they have to just not like be hands off because they don't know what else to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Another thing that I will tell you though, because sometimes when I say this, people are like, "Oh, okay, so my baby's not gonna cry," and I'm like, "Ha ha ha! I can't promise that." I usually send all the parents that I work with, and I said right before, after a call, I want you to sit down, take some deep breaths, grab a piece of paper, a pen, and write down why you want to change the dynamic, why you want to change the way your baby's sleeping. I don't know because I want to go to sleep in my bed alone. I want to go out, have dinner with my girls, and I can't because the baby wakes up every like hour and needs me to fall asleep. Or I want to go on a trip and my 3 year old would not sleep with anybody else. Or I just miss sleeping through the night, whatever it is, whatever you want, no judgment. You're going to be the only one seeing this list, not even your partner, no one. But it's really important to do this. So the first night you change things around and go start working on the actual work. You see this because your baby did not decide, didn't decide to change things. Babies are okay with the status quo. They're okay the way they're sleeping. A baby is supposed to wake up in the middle of the night. Babies are okay. So whenever parents don't want their kids to wake up in the middle of the night or their babies, they need to know that they want to change the things. So whenever they start changing things, they're going to be met with resistance on the other side because kids don't want to change or babies don't want to change or where they're falling asleep or they're sleeping or where they're sleeping. And how does a baby show resistance? Crying, fussing. So it's important to know that to be able to be there for them.
Right. Realistically, like no one likes change when it's not a change we've chosen.
Hmm.
Unless we're ready for it and we want something, even a seemingly simple change, nobody likes that. It's like when I was doing hair, I worked at a salon where we could wear all kinds of colors and then they switched it to black. It wasn't that big a deal. I had to wear all black when I was in beauty school. So I still had plenty of black clothes, but I was like, this sucks. I don't want to wear all black. And
Hmm.
it's like, it was such a like, I don't know, like petty thing, like to even worry about. But it's when it's not your choice, it makes it that much
Hmm.
harder. And even as adults, we don't like that.
Yeah. Think about it's funny you said this, and there's something that my kid, my oldest, has been doing a lot. Is like every time he shows up, I'm like dinner or like let's sit down and have lunch. He's like, I didn't want to scramble eggs with broccoli and tomatoes, and he's like, you love that. Oh, or like doesn't matter what it is. It could be like, oh, I didn't want chicken. Oh, I didn't want steak. Oh, I didn't want every single time. And last year during the school year, here we're in summer break this school year, he was like, "Oh, what did you send me? What did you send for lunch?" And I'm like, "I'm not gonna tell you because every single time I told him while we're walking to school, he was like, I didn't want this," and started like making this big fuss. And I'm like, "You love rice and, hard-boiled eggs and like tomatoes and French fries. Like he would be against anything just because he didn't choose it.
Yeah. My
So
middle.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like,
So I'm like, yeah, not sharing information. It's a surprise. Whatever you're eating, it's a surprise and you're gonna like it.
you gotta fight
Period.
for sure. So, what would you say are the most common of the challenges that you see? So, like, even within, like the decisions and the processes and all of that, what would you say is the most common struggle that they tend to have, whether it be within working with you or prior to coming to you?
Prior, babies waking up in the middle of the night and short naps. People do not like short naps. It's probably, and I didn't. Also, that's the reason why I started getting into this world. Rafa would nap for 20 minutes and that's it. So it's not good for your mindset when you're helping a baby fall asleep for an hour and only sleeps 20 minutes. And you're like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm losing here. Yeah. So a lot of people come because of that, short naps. That's a hard one to tackle, by the way. Baby is waking up, night wakings, waking up in the middle of the night. It's either for like just checking where you are because they're hungry,
Right.
because
Which
they're
you
just
said
babies and that's what
earlier.
they do.
Yeah, you said earlier that we all wake up every 2 hours. Is that, like, where we're just, like, more conscious or, like, what does that look like?
So we all sleep in sleep cycles. I would love for people to be able to see me, but I'm going to show you. I usually represent a sleep cycle as my hand, and every sleep cycle is composed of phases. So you have phase one and two, three and four, and REM sleep, right? So you have five, around five, let's say. Every 2 hours, like sleep cycle at night, they're different during the day. At night is roughly 2 hours. Depending on the person, in between an hour and a half and 2 hours. When you start sleeping, you go into phase one. Phase one is like going down into the basement of sleep. You are kind of conscious of what's going on around you, but also sleep. Those times like you were like in the car with someone and somebody else driving, and you're like, oh, wow, what's going on? You fall asleep for like 5 seconds, phase one. Or the reason why you always say this, something I said in my consult is like, when you fall asleep in the living room, you're watching, I don't know, Game of Thrones, and your husband comes and is like, babe, you fell asleep. And you're like, what? No, I didn't. It's like, I'm watching. And you're like, yes, I'm watching. And the following night, after you're like, okay, yes, I was not, you go and try to remember where you were at. And he's like, no, I don't remember this part. Go back. No, I don't remember. I do remember, I don't know, Cersei doing this. Okay, go forward. And then you're trying to pinpoint where you fell asleep, but you can't because phase one, basically. And at the end of the cycle, you go through all the phases, you go to REM sleep, which is also phase one and REM sleep. Both of them are really light, really easy to wake up and really active. So the same with babies, you see a newborn smiling at you and you're like, oh, they too and already smiling. No, they're not. They're just sleeping. They're just practicing. Anyway, so when you end the cycle in REM sleep, you're connected. You have like, this micro waking, where you check the environment. It's a survival thing. You check the environment. If nothing changed, you keep sleeping. But if you have to, a need is not met, so you need to go to the bathroom, you wake up and you're like, huh, weird. I woke up at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, or I need to drink some water, or your baby's calling you, or you hear a weird sound, in the living room. You're like, hey, you gotta go check it. No. So otherwise, you don't realize. You just like roll and keep sleeping. And that's what we all do. Every 2 hours, we check our surroundings. But when all your needs are met, or you don't have kids around or babies around,
Right.
you just keep sleeping, sleep through the night, air quotes.
Right. That's
But we
interesting.
actually all wake up every 2 hours.
I actually had seen a thing too about moms and how, like, female brains don't turn off as much of their brain when they sleep as a male does. Do you know anything about that?
I've never heard it that way, but our sleep cycles are aligned with our baby's sleep cycles. They
Right.
get like synchronized.
Because
That's usually
the
why you
thing
wake
that
up when
said,
your
like,
baby wakes up.
yeah, I
So
see.
you wake up like 10 seconds before what you said earlier
Right. Right.
because they're synchronized.
They had said, like, men's, like, their brain goes off, like, 70% or something, and then women, it's, like, 10%, and I was like, "So is that why I sleep so light?" I
Hmm.
don't know, but it would make sense, I guess, maybe our sleep cycles just don't get the chance to go as deep if we're synced up with our babies, Maybe that's part of it.
It could be. Also, a lot of like, our everyday life is not great towards
Right,
sleep, let's say. Like, even if you're not working, let's say, even if you're not like looking at social media or like being on your phone or anything, we work with our computers, so we're like watching screens at all times.
Yeah.
And that's not good for sleep because blue lights, goes against melatonin, which is a sleep hormone that we need. And blue light, it's everywhere. It's on your TV, it's on your computer, and we watch shows before going to bed. And that's not good because your brain is wired when you go to bed. And we drink caffeine in different forms. You drink coffee or Coca-Cola or an energy drink or just a tea,
Right.
like after dinner. And that's also not great for sleep. There's a lot of things that prevent us to a deep sleep.
I will say that's one of the best things I did was stop. We have a TV in our room for like sick days or like during the day when I'm like working if the baby like the kids are doing something else and the baby needs to be separate. She's my only kid that will ever actually up until this point, she would ask to watch Bluey and I'd be like, "Okay, do you want me to put you in bed?" And she'd say, "Yeah." And I'd put her up in the bed and then I'd turn on Bluey and then she'd say, "Yite." And I'd have to turn off the light and she'll put herself to sleep. When she's tired enough,
Hmm.
like, she's fine with it, but it's, like, the rest of the time like, my other kids, they had to be, like, rubbing my hair all the time, but she's the only one that would actually put herself to bed, but the best thing I did was, like, start saying we're not having our phones when we're in bed because my husband used to play games, I'd be checking social media, the kids would be in bed with us, and they'd
Hmm.
be playing games with him, and then even when they'd fall asleep, he'd still be up at like 11:30. Like we'd go to bed at like, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then at 11:30, I'd, come out of my phase one and I'd be like, why is he still on his phone? So he stopped doing that. And that's been super helpful. He even puts his phone like on the other side of the room. So when his alarm goes off in the morning, has to get up. But I've even
Hmm.
where they've talked about just having your phone in the room prevents you from sleeping as deep because you have that unconscious like pull towards it to want to check it. And it's
Yeah.
really interesting how strong that can be. And I definitely looked into and I'm gonna get the blue light blocking screens for their laptops because it's
Yeah.
any way I can block it, I want to.
It's interesting because I don't really know much about blue light and how it affects you or everything. But what I always tell people is you gotta be mindful about the screen use in your house because we tend to have the TV on the background. You have like the news or, now you listen to music from the TV, so you're just like it's there in the background. But it's other people are like, yeah, but we're not watching it. And it's like, yes, you're not, but your wonderful skin, the biggest organ in the whole body, is perceiving it. And that's sending signals to your brain. So you don't have to be actively looking at it. You're feeling it, perceiving it. So yeah, we need to be mindful of it. I'm terrible myself. I've been in it since after Christmas. We traveled for Christmas, and over there, I was just like, we were in this place really in the middle of nowhere, had no signal, the Wi-Fi was terrible, so I was not using my phone. I, lucky me, had a book because I read a lot, and I started reading before bed, and I kept it. Actually, so far, I'm afraid to say it out loud. It's been a good strike. Anyway, but sometimes, yeah, it's so easy to go to bed with your phone.
Right. That's a whole other conversation that I like cut my kids off of tablet times and they play better and like the whole thing. And so if I can see it like in the day to day, I'm sure, like there's probably so much going on in their little brains that I don't even notice with their sleep, by just not having it as often as as they did, especially tablets. And so I'm sure that there's plenty of things that, you know, that have
Well,
bettered their sleep. And maybe, I mean, even
well,
with that, maybe that's why they're playing better and why they're in better moods.
yeah, could be. A good rule of thumb is to cuddle screens 2 hours before bed, ideally 1 hour at least, and 1 hour before a nap, for your baby, 1 hour before nap time, or at least 30 minutes before nap time. That's a good rule. But yeah, screens is it's a tricky one. I
Yeah.
don't remember also our parents being like worried about us watching TV.
Right. You
But
sit too
anyway,
close to the TV, you're gonna ruin your eyes. I was like,
hmm,
yeah,
sit far away. Yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
Outside of them just wanting their babies to sleep, what comes up in more common ways for parents when their babies aren't sleeping and they're kind of struggling with that?
I think when their babies aren't sleeping and they're not sleeping because their babies are not sleeping, they get more temper tantrums because we also get them as adults. They are snappy, and they notice that they have no patience, that they're starting to, look at their babies and not being as loving as they wanted to, let's say. It's not that they're doing anything wrong or anything. They're just like feeling they know that's not good for the family,
I think a big
basically.
word
They
that
know they need to do something about it.
right. I think a big word people are afraid to say is resentment. They don't wanna say they resent
Hmm.
their kids, but it does creep in, and it doesn't
Yeah,
not like it means you hate your kid, but resentment comes up.
no, I've heard that before, and it's not unusual. Lucky me, well, lucky them, actually. I would say consultara, no judgment zone. So we all been there also. At some point, we were like, they're not at their best. And I always say the same. It's like good for them for being able to see it and ask for help. That's the thing. It's all about getting better, not being perfect.
What would you say is, like, the most surprising lesson that parents get out of working with you? Like, do they have more aha moments, or, like, what is that biggest aha moment that you tend to see?
So we here in Argentina, we do everything late. So we have dinner at 9 p.m. You go to bed later. I'm in a full-on American schedule, I would say. I'm the weird one that has dinner at 6:30 and is in bed by 10. But I do. Sometimes I actually have to have two dinners if I get together to eat dinner with my friends. I have a small dinner with my kids, and then I have dinner at 9 because I cannot wait until 9 to eat anymore. So parents are really they resist when I tell them they need to put their babies down early because babies need to go to bed early. And kids do too, actually. 6 year olds need to go to bed 8 p.m., let's say, depending on their schedule and everything, but they need to
Right.
go to bed early. So people here resist it. And I'm like, okay, hear me out. We're going to give it a try. We'll do it my way. And if it doesn't work, we'll go to your way. And usually at the end, they're like, okay, I got to give it to you. It's that because they do it and they're like, okay, everything is better now. I've been putting my kid to bed early. I'm going to give it a try and try to shift to a later bedtime. And then everything collapses again. And they're like, okay, good. We're going back to early bedtime and we're sticking with that.
I was gonna ask, would you say that's because of the amount of time that they end up sleeping, or is it because of the time of day that makes a difference?
It's both, actually. Most babies, most everyone, actually, not just babies, but we all, whatever time between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., it's a appropriate time for a baby or a kid to start the day or an adult because we all start segregating cortisol, which is the hormone that wakes us up and helps us be actually awake during the day. It's not just the stress hormone. And so kids wake up early. They tend to wake up earlier, around 7, I would say, most of them, at least here. And kids and babies need in between 10 and 12 hours of sleep at night, depending on what age they are. Usually, when people come to me, they're putting their kids down around 9, but kids need to be up by 7 to go to kindergarten. They're going to 9, 10, and I'm like, okay, we're going to give it a try to have them sleep 12 hours. And they're like, that's too much. My baby never slept that long. My kid never slept that long. Did your baby ever have a chance to sleep that long? Because babies can go to bed late, but they will still wake up at the same time. We all have a wake up time. It's not that they go to bed at like midnight and they're going to wake up at noon because they
Mhm.
needed 12 hours. No, they're going to sleep. Probably they're going to wake up even earlier. Anyway, so that's how I started telling them. If you need 12 hours of night, let's say they need to sleep 12 hours a night, that's a 12-hour night. AKA also that means that you need 12-hour day. If your kid wakes up at 7 a.m., it should probably go into bed around 7 p.m. And that's how I get them. And then I tell them, listen, we're gonna give it a try. It usually works a lot. With most of them, works that they need closer to 12 hours. But if your kid always wake up around like 11:20, let's say, and that's what he needs, 11 hours and 20 minutes, 11 hours some days, 11 hours and 15 hours, we're just gonna be okay with that. I'm not gonna keep going for 12 because that's not what your baby or your kid needs.
Right.
But we are gonna give them a chance to see how much sleep they need, and usually it's closer to 12. And also, you just ask if it was the time or the amount of time a baby sleeps. Going to bed between 7, 6:30, 8:30, I would say it's also when it's easier for babies and kids to fall asleep because that's when the sun usually is going down and we start producing melatonin,
Right.
which is easier. After I always tell parents that it's like a big balloon they're inflating that is full of melatonin. But when you put them down at the perfect time, that sweet spot for them, it just like showers. It's like full of melatonin all over them that helps them go to sleep, super mellow, easy peasy. Everybody's happy.
We got room darkening curtains because my kids would wake up so easy. And that's helped a lot because when we do, even when we do get to bed later or, whatever, it definitely helps my older two not wake up as easily because it's not, like, so bright in there, and I will tell you the only time
Hmm.
I've ever because like I said, I used to be the kid that woke up butt crack of dawn. Every time I'd have a sleepover, I was the first one awake, first one to fall asleep, do not mess with my sleep. I mean, I was just that kid, and there was one time specifically, I had a friend that had a basement bedroom, and she had her one little window covered completely, and I woke up and it was, like, 1:30 in the afternoon, and I was like, "What happened?" Where did the day go? Where is everybody? I was just, like, so disoriented because it just was so weird. Yeah, that's very interesting in that time frame of and I mean, I noticed that with my baby, like, she'll fall asleep, especially if she doesn't take a nap, like, by 7 o'clock,
Hmm.
she's snoozing, but the older ones, I swear they would stay up forever if I let them. But they're better now they're at the point where they will nap in the car and like on our way to jujitsu, they're like, this is fine. And my oldest used to fight it and she'd be like, I wasn't asleep. Now well, my middle would always be like, "Yeah, I was asleep, it's okay." Or she'd just be like when she'd be cranky, she'd be like, "I'm just sleepy." And she was always good about saying if she was tired. My oldest was like, "No, I'm not
Hmm.
sleeping." Now, she woke up the other day, we were in the car, and she's like, "Are we there yet?" And we were like, "No, we're not home yet." And she's like, "Okay, I'm going back to sleep." I was like, "Get it, girl." Like, that's how I was. If we went on a road trip, I was like, "I'm taking a snooze. This is fine."
Yeah.
So it's like their dynamics are definitely changing, like, with the different ages, and I can see that, but it's
Hmm.
yeah,
It's also easier to be flexible, more flexible with older kiddos and with babies. Babies are usually like the routines and they have sleep needs that we actually need to follow. With kids, it's more about listening to the rhythm of their day. Some days they have like, swimming lessons and they use up a lot of energy or jujitsu, and some days they don't. It's a snow day or a rainy day, you stay at home all day and you don't get as tired.
it helps to homeschool too because then I'm, like, not as rigid with our bedtime routine because I'm like, they can sleep till whenever they want. They don't have to get up. I just let them
Mm-hmm.
sleep. Like you said with the bedtime routine, like, once we put one of those in place and because we were fighting every night at bedtime, I was so cranky. My husband and my at the time, my youngest would just fight and scream, and the next thing you know, my oldest was crying because she doesn't like when anybody's fighting, and then it turned into, like, just a mess, and when we finally
Yeah.
started, like, establishing the no phones and we read a certain book every night, we all brush our teeth together, we do everything, and we, like, kind of go and we say what we're grateful for, and then we say our prayers, and they're much more willing to go to bed now that we have this, like
Mm-hmm.
but if we skip that process, they are like, "Nope, this is not" yeah.
Yeah, I would say that same. It's not about the time you do it, but it has to be the same steps every night in the same order. If you do, like book, sound machine, song, bed, every night it has to be the same.
Yeah, they call us out now.
Mm-hmm.
Something like, we didn't do this yet." And there have been they're pretty flexible about it. There are times where we're like, "Oh, yeah, we'll do that, but, we have to switch." But for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, they're like, "This, and this." And I love it though because I'm very, like, all over the place. I struggle hard with consistency, and so I love how rigid my oldest is because she's like, "This is the things we do." And I'm like, "Yes, girl, keep me on track." What are 3 things that a parent could do tonight to help improve their child's sleep?
Tell them you love them, give them some cuddles, and put your babies or your kids to sleep before they're overtired. If your kid is overtired, you're gonna have a hard time falling asleep either with or without you. They're just gonna be cranky. They just don't wanna go to bed. They don't wanna, they're gonna have that separation anxiety. Making sure your kids go to bed before hitting that overtired
Before
part,
they
it's
regulate.
really important. If your kid it's already overtired, when you see your kid that is like, oh, so everything is like, oh, I
Yeah,
wanted the blue cup, not the red cup, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then all of a sudden they're like, life is good, mom. I love you. And you're like, what's going on with you? That's overtired for a kid, probably. They swing in between moods. So you want to try to avoid that. And if they do, you just know that you're going to have to be there for a good half an hour, 40 minutes to help them settle. And it's okay.
that's good.
Another one, darkness. When you have a baby, a sound machine, and darkness are your best friends. That's it.
That
Best friends.
Think of something. We went to the caves in Branson, Missouri for a homeschool, field trip, and she was so cranky, and I was like, "Oh, man, last time she was great, like, this is gonna be a pain." The whole tour is, like,
Mhm.
45 minutes, and I have to wear her, and we're in a cave, like, what are we gonna do? And they get us to this one part where they tell this, like, little story from, like, the Huck Finn, like, stories, Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn stories, and they say, "Okay, we're gonna turn off the lights," because 'cause they're like, as they're telling the story, they're like, "This is what they were looking at. This is how dark it was," and they turn everything out, and I'm telling you, they do that for maybe 2 minutes, and when they turned the lights back on, she was out. The moment they quit, she was, like, done, and
Yeah.
I was like, "I can't believe she fell asleep that
Yeah.
fast." Like, it was crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, that pitch black, like, because we're
Pitch
underground,
black.
like, there was no light, and she just immediately passed out. That's yeah, that's one of those stories.
Yeah. If you can replicate that cave-like ambiance in your room, you're gonna have a wonderful sleeping baby. That doesn't mean that your baby's only gonna be able to sleep in a cave-like ambiance again, but that's what kids need. So if you can, give them that, and when you cannot, just help them.
Yeah, we have a,
Yeah.
Google Nest in our room, and we do lullabies because they prefer that. I prefer the brown noise, but they're like, "No, we need to put" we actually at one point had it set up where, like, if I was still awake, I would switch it, or I tried to make, like, a playlist that would play, like, so many, like, lullaby songs and then switch over to brown
Mm.
noise, but then it ends up into some, like, weird stuff, and in the middle of the night, I'm waking up to, like, random lullabies, and there's people singing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Not what I wanted."
I think
Um,
the difference between lullabies and white noise is usually when it comes to music, it changes so much that it ended up like wiring the brain. It awakens the brain. So when it comes to sleep, I would always recommend
yeah.
white noise, pink noise. Now there's so many noises to
So,
say,
yeah, I like the
but
brown because it's, like,
Mhm.
deep and it is cave-like, like, I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I always tell parents that, when you have a newborn and you're, sharing the same room, I didn't like, sound machines, but then they were so needed. Basically, they're so
Yeah.
good for newborns that I ended up like loving them. And I always tell them if you don't like, white noise, just choose a river,
Right.
the rain, those like more water sounds. Try
Natural.
to stick with that, a waterfall.
That
Just
was another
make
thing.
the
Yes.
ocean with a seagull at the end
Yes.
being like,
That's the thing, I
"Mhm."
kept struggling to find ones that had, like, a consistent sound too, because I would get a
Yeah.
really brown noise and I'd be like, "Yes," and it would be like it would say it was 8 hours of brown noise, but, like, one track would be, like, this low, like, cave-like sound, like you're underwater, and then the next one would be, like, a waterfall, so it'd be like, "Shh," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is not consistent."
And the other thing, that's a good one, it has to be consistent. So you don't want like a fan and then the AC and then, the blow dryer, the washing machine. No, you want washing machine all night long, basically. Because otherwise, every 5 minutes when it changes, it again wakes the brain, so
Yeah.
you're not fully relaxed. This is a sewing machine. I have it. This is where I do my consults. I don't use this one anymore, but this baby is $20. It's on Amazon and it's over 6 years old. It's a sound machine. You
We will
just get
put
it.
that in the show notes. Should I
It's
add
a ROM sound machine, usually between 30 and $20, and it's 6 years old. I bought at least 10 of this because I give them to people,
Right.
not because I use them for myself. I actually have two at home. Now they use the hatch, but I have two at home. And I just think it's the best gift you can give to a person that is pregnant and doesn't know why. Yeah. And they're portable and you just like plug it in, put it on a USB so you can take it in the stroller, for like naps on the go. Wonderful. And it's consistent. It has three different noises and yeah,
Love that.
best friend.
Yeah, we'll definitely
Hmm.
have that was one of my next questions is I was gonna ask if there were any tools or books or resources. So we'll definitely put that in the show notes, but is there anything else that you can recommend
Yes.
for parents?
Sound machine. For newborns, sound machine, swaddle. The swaddle also is going to be your best friend as long as you make sure you're using it correctly. Darkness, so get like shades, whatever. You can use even a garbage bag to cover where light is coming from. And something else, yeah, I just like sound machine. I gotta tell you, sound machine is a game changer. And
And what
sleep sacks for kids that are trying to escape the crib.
right, right. And
Mhm.
what advice would you give to someone maybe with kids that are a little bit older? So, like, for example, we were talking about all of the activities. So they might be getting to bed later or things like that. What advice can you give to that?
Quiet time. So, the kids stop napping one day, all of a sudden they don't nap anymore. They used to have like this half an hour or hour in the middle of the day. So they were awake for like, let's say 5, 6 hours, then nap, and they have 6 hours. And all of a sudden we expect them to be awake for like 12, 14 hours without stopping. So quiet time is this wonderful thing that you do in the middle of the day or whenever you have time or whenever your kid needs it, where you quiet things down. You suggest quiet activities, puzzles, coloring, drawing, no screens, chill. You play with them if you want. You can sit with them. It's also really good for teaching them how to play alone, be by themselves, entertain themselves when they're older. So they can actually, their brain, their body can rest a little bit. So that's a good one. Help them.
My final question is if someone listening to this is struggling with sleep or any of the things that we've talked about, and you want them to leave with one piece of advice, what would that be?
It's okay to ask for help. We are not supposed to know everything. Again, what I said before, my mom was completely amazed by the fact that I work as a child sleep consultant because she never needed one. And I'm the youngest of nine, which is a lot of kids. And she was amazed by the fact that people needed help with this. So ask for help. It's okay. You're not supposed to know everything. There's a reason why there's people like me that can help you. Help. It'll make your life way better. Sleep is wonderful. Sleep is wonderful.
Yes, there's so
Yeah.
much power in that humility to just ask for.
It's a luxury. It's also a luxury when you're a parent. It's a commodity. So, yeah,
Yes.
value it.
Well, I want to thank you for having this
Mhm.
interview with me and helping all the moms that listen to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you?
So, people can find me at Instagram at Goodstone Parenting and same my website www.goodstoneparenting.com.